What's up, everybody? Peter Valley, FBAmastery.com. Look, shots fired, shots fired. I'm getting real in this video. I'm taking the task, pulling back the curtain on something called eScore and an app called ScoutIQ. Now, I'm not pulling any punches with this one. I have exposed, and I'm going to get some screenshots here in just a minute. I have exposed eScore, which purports to be a calculation measuring Amazon sales over a 6-month period. I've caught eScore straight up lying. There's no way to sugarcoat this. And so if you're using ScoutIQ, if you're using a tool called RepriceIQ, if you're using eFlip, you need to watch this video. And even if you aren't, you might at one point. So this video is absolutely mandatory viewing. By the end of this video, you will understand very clearly why it is absolutely disastrous for your Amazon business to be relying on this thing called eScore, this feature of this app called ScoutIQ, to rely on this to make buying or repricing decisions for your business. It's getting a little ugly. It's getting a little dramatic, but we're gonna have some fun with it. Just a little public service announcement. If you're using any tool that relies on this thing called eScore, quite possibly the gates of heaven will not be open to you. At the very least, you're gonna get extra pat downs at the TSA checkpoints. Certain countries will no longer accept you, and I think your actual credit score will go down amongst a host of other disastrous ailments that will befall you if you continue to rely on eScore. Let's get into it. Here's what we're going to cover. What is ScoutIQ and what is eScore? I'm going to define it in their terms, relying on their documentation. Number 2, this is busted part 1. What happened when I contacted ScoutIQ support and asked them just basic questions about eScore and how it's calculated? The results honestly inspired this video because I was completely, I'll be honest, I was completely insulted. Number 3, busted part 2. This is where it gets real. This is the core of the video. I'm going to give you 10 examples from ScoutIQ. I'm going to show you the eScore, and I'm going to show you side by side the actual sales graphs and show that they are absolutely bear almost no resemblance to each other. And I'm going to confirm conclusively once and for all that this eScore thing, it's not accurate, and it's barely even connected to reality. And number 4, we're going to end on an empowering note. Is there life after ScoutIQ, life after eScore? Absolutely. I'm going to tell you what data you can rely on to actually get an accurate estimation of Amazon sales. Okay, real quick, what is eScore? What is ScoutIQ? ScoutIQ is a scanning app. Scanning apps are basically mandatory for any serious Amazon sellers. It's an app on your phone that allows you to scan any product, whether it's a book or anything else, into your phone and get data, including Amazon sales rank, this thing called eScore, the pricing value, which is probably the most important thing, and a host of other data just by scanning using your phone. That's what ScoutIQ is. eScore is what they call a proprietary feature of ScoutIQ. It's also used by another tool called RepriceIQ and a third tool called eFlip. Those other two are lesser known. ScoutIQ uses this thing called eScore that purports to be a measure of sales over the last 6 months. So if you scan something that's got an eScore of 50, eScore claims and ScoutIQ claims that this item has gotten 50 sales in the last 6 months. And the reason the stakes are so high with this thing called eScore and why I made this video is that many thousands of Amazon sellers depend on ScoutIQ and eScore to make buying decisions. So if anything is inaccurate, including and especially eScore, this is costing thousands of Amazon sellers countless amounts of money by making bad decisions or dissuading them from making decisions they should have made, buying decisions they should have made. Okay, so here's what I'm going to cover in this video. Number 1, eScore is just simply not accurate. It does not represent the sales it says it does. Number 2, the claims that ScoutIQ makes about eScore, also not accurate. Number 3, eScore is actually a worse measure of sales than average Amazon sales rank, which is data you have access to already. You don't need eScore. eScore is an extremely poor substitute. Not even really a substitute, just a poor, pale imitation of the real thing, which is average Amazon sales rank. Number 4, it is very easy to confirm with publicly available data that eScore is not accurate. I'm going to show you how I did that and how you can do that too. And what I intend to show you by the end of this video is that eScore is at best, I'm being really generous here, at best a very rough estimate of Amazon sales that is in no way better than average Amazon sales rank and dramatically inferior to Amazon sales rank in a couple of key ways. So the story is really kind of a battle of the titans between ScoutIQ and a tool called Scoutly. Now, at least in the Amazon book selling niche, those are the top 2 apps. Those are apps that almost everybody uses. And so there's a little bit of discussion about which one's better. And really the only way that ScoutIQ, only substantive way ScoutIQ claims to be better than Scoutly is this eScore thing. So by the end of this video, you're gonna be left with really only one option. Now, there's about a half dozen other scanning apps out there. There's like NitoScan, there's Profit Bandit, there's what's the inventory lab one, like Scoutify. There's about a half dozen scanning apps out there, but amongst Amazon booksellers at the very least, these are the top two. Okay, so what is a scanning app really quick? So a scanning app is basically where the rubber meets the road. It's an app, as I mentioned earlier, it's on your phone, it gives you a bunch of data that you need to make a buying decision. So you scan an item and you decide, do I want to buy this or do I want to pass on it? Very, very high stakes here because, again, many tens of thousands of Amazon sellers depend on these scanning apps to make buying decisions. If you've got an app that's giving you bad data, then you are making buying decisions you shouldn't make, or you are passing on items that could have actually been profitable to you. So either way, disastrous for your Amazon business if you've got a scanning app that's feeding you bad data. Okay, so full transparency, let me just tell you my role in all this or my history with these apps. So I've been using Scoutly to one degree or another going back to 2007. So what is that, like 16 years as of the time I recorded this. Go way back with Scoutly. I was using it before it was even an app. I was using like it was this like thing you log into on your flip phone. It was just super crude. These are like the dark ages of Amazon selling. So I go back with Scoutly all the way back to then. It was called a seller tool, then it was called FBA Scan. Again, now it's called Scoutly. And so I've tried every other app out there. Scoutly is objectively better. I never saw any reason to change apps. Then ScoutIQ came along. It's the most recent app that's been released. I think ScoutIQ dates back to 2017-ish. So it's like 5 or 6 years old. So when the new kid on the block, ScoutIQ, debuted, of course I gave it a look, like I do with every app that comes along. And I checked out the website. I did a little bit of tire kicking, never actually downloaded it, but I looked at the features that it purported to offer, and I pretty much dismissed it almost instantly as an app for newer sellers that really don't know any better when it comes to what data they need. It lacked a bunch of features. Only feature it claimed to offer that made it in any way superior to Scoutly was this eScore feature. And once I looked at that, I dismissed it immediately as just kind of a all hype, no substance, gimmicky feature. It was very obvious from the outset that it offered no value above Amazon sales rank, or particularly average Amazon sales rank. Nothing whatsoever. Didn't even really claim to. And it had a blind spot that average sales rank did not have. So I immediately dismissed it and moved on. Oh, and by the way, I stole this thumbnail here from the Used Book Guy YouTube channel. Shout out to him. So one thing I've noticed kind of interesting with this ScoutIQ versus Scoutly battle is that newer sellers I've noticed tend to choose ScoutIQ. And more experienced sellers tend to choose Scoutly. Another thing I've noticed is that sellers tend to start with ScoutIQ and then quickly graduate to Scoutly once they get a little more experience. Now, my main theory about this is that when you're getting started, you tend to look around to different gurus, people on the internet, like what do they recommend? And you'll notice that the vast majority of the people out there that are promoting different products, the YouTube people and the blogger people or whatever, the vast majority of them are actually promoting ScoutIQ. So if you're newer and you're looking around, you're looking for a Q, you don't know where to start, you're going to tend to think, well, actually, if these people are all promoting this product, it's probably the best one. That's probably why they're promoting it. As I'm going to get to here in a second, that is not why products are promoted. That's not why ScoutIQ is put in front of you so often. There's actually a hidden reason for that. I'm going to get to that in a second. Okay, so real quick, since a lot of us have not been acquainted at this point, my name is Peter Valley. I've been selling on Amazon for over 15 years at this point. I primarily specialize in books. I do the website FBAmastery.com. I kind of sort of am the world's most published author on Amazon selling, although it's not really the best title because most of my books don't really sell at all. But if we had to be specifically, strictly speaking, I am the world's most published author on Amazon selling. And of course, I got to say, you guys, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, and perhaps more importantly, hit the link below this video. Go to FBAmastery.com. You can build a whole business off of what I give away for free. I got free web classes, free reports, bunch of other stuff. Link is right below this video. And I also got to mention, I have a much more detailed version of this video. I wrote an article all about this exact subject, ScoutIQ, eScore, go way more in depth. Link is below this video. You can head over there and read that. Strongly recommend it if you want to get even more in depth into the subject of how eScore is deceiving you. Okay, so back to what I referenced a second ago. ScoutIQ's entire promotional strategy seems to be partnering with big influencers, going to them, like people that run YouTube channels and like bloggers and have different platforms, going to them and just saying, hey, you promote ScoutIQ, we will give you a cut of the sale. Specifically 30% is what they pay. That is not like a shady, unethical strategy at all. And I'm not suggesting it is, but that seems to be their whole promotional strategy. And this is precisely why you see ScoutIQ promoted so much more than Scoutly, because ScoutIQ simply pays more and they play the wine and dine influencers game. So ScoutIQ goes to all these influencers and they go, hey, we're gonna give you 30% of the sale. For every person you refer to us, we'll give you 30%. That amounts to $8.80 because ScoutIQ is significantly more expensive than Scoutly, even though it's a worse product. Scoutly, on the other hand, doesn't really play that game. They don't do the flashy dancing monkey internet marketing stuff. They just simply make a better product, and they actually pay less if you promote them. So they pay, I think it's 15% on a cheaper subscription plan. So it works out to $5.25. Now, so if you're doing the math, that means if you promote ScoutIQ, you're making 50% more than if you promote Scoutly. That's a 50% difference. And that's for every single person they refer, which can add up to hundreds and thousands of dollars a month difference between promoting ScoutIQ and promoting Scoutly. Now, I gotta say, this is in no way meant to be attempt to take shots at anyone who's promoting ScoutIQ. Because even though Scoutly is a better product, and I think most people would agree when they put them side by side, it's not so much better that it would be egregiously, criminal or unethical to promote ScoutIQ over Scoutly. So if you're sitting back and you got a YouTube channel or you got a platform and you're like, wow, this ScoutIQ person is gonna pay me 50% more, and they're both similar enough, you're not exactly a bad person if you go ahead and promote ScoutIQ. In fact, not at all. And I'm not suggesting that in any way, shape, or form, but the phenomenon I'm pointing out here explains exactly why you see ScoutIQ promoted so much more than Scout. And I would argue you could not put both apps side by side in front of anyone and have them honestly say that ScoutIQ is better, except for a couple of minor bells and whistles features that don't amount to much, and this eScore thing, if you believe in it, which you will not by the end of this video. Okay, so even though I'm picking on eScore a little bit and ScoutIQ, this actually is about something much, much bigger and a much bigger problem. So even if you're not using ScoutIQ, this video is still relevant to you because it'll help you protect yourself against a real major problem in the Amazon selling world, particularly in the Amazon software space. So what I've found, and I'll get to specifics here in a second, what I found is that a ton of Amazon software tools employ the following trickery to basically separate you from your money. And this is how it goes. Number one, they take a feature, and this is a feature that's not new, doesn't offer any actual innovation, oftentimes doesn't do anything at all, and they give it a super cheesy sounding name. They think it sounds cool, but it usually sounds really cheesy. It's like dynamic velocity sales trigger or something like that. It could be anything, right? Almost every tool does this. And then they announce that in order to get access to the dynamic sales velocity cheesy trigger man feature or whatever, that you need to use their tool because nobody else has this top secret thing. And they never explain what this thing is exactly or exactly how it works. They just give it a cool name. They hope that you'll be so wowed by it, you'll sign up for their software because you can't stand to not have access to the thing that sounds so cool, right? They never, and so part 4 to this, they never explain how this thing works, how this feature works. They'll allude to it, but they'll never really fully pull back the curtain and transparently explain what this feature does that they've given this crazy name to, or how exactly it'll help your Amazon business. They essentially trick customers into signing up for their tools because if you don't, you won't get access to the whiz-bang dynamic sales trigger algorithm. And so they say, hey, if you want this, you got to come to us. And people get the kind of FOMO thing where it's like, oh, I don't want to miss out on this crazy algorithmic blah, blah, blah. So they sign up, and that seems to be the whole strategy. And again, the key part of this is not explaining how these mystical, cool-sounding features actually work. And it really just relies on sellers' either naivete or unwillingness to actually attempt to pull back the curtain and actually ask some hard questions. Because if you did, you get no answers. You would immediately realize it's all hype. And I got really, really serious into studying this phenomenon recently. It's about 4 months ago. I wrote an article that attempted to, and I think I successfully pulled off, aggregating every single Amazon software repricing tool out there into one table that shows how much they cost. It was simply a pricing table. And I posted this on fbamastery.com. And one thing I found researching over 30 Amazon repricing tools is that almost every single one employ this exact strategy I just mentioned, where they have a feature, and it's a dynamic, algorithmic, super, profit assassin or whatever, and they give it a cheesy, cool sounding name, and then they tell you, hey, we're the only repricer that has this. So if you want access to the repricing dynamic algorithm price assassin, you got to come to us. And their whole strategy seemed to be around extremely vague features with ridiculous sounding names that they would never explain. That's a key detail. And I started to email these companies, and I was like, hey, you got this thing called super next generation AI. Cool. I'm sold. I mean, it sounds awesome. Please tell me how it works. Tell me how this will help my business, and tell me specifically in what way, what the mechanism is that will help my business. 100% of them refused to answer. 100%. Absolutely insane. And I realized it's all empty hype. None of these quote whiz bang features actually do anything. Or if they did, they would just tell me, right? If you have a feature that actually is innovative, by all means, you should be shouting it from the rooftops. Guess what we got? We got this thing that does this exact thing, and here's how it does it, right? If you don't check both of those boxes, it's fake. I mean, it just has to be, right? Why else would you create so much mystery around your feature, right? It makes no sense. So I got really suspicious of everybody at this point. I just realized this is an absolute like marketing pandemic in the Amazon selling world. So here's some examples of some of the more hilarious ones that I found. This is specific to repricers, but repricers claiming, this is some of the different feature names they gave their features. Dynamic sales velocity trigger. Are you kidding me? Next generation AI power. What is this, like a what was that show, like a Knight Rider episode in 1984? Like, what the heck am I looking at here? Once I started to get suspicious of everybody around that time, I was like, I wonder if eScore is an example of this. It seems suspiciously vague about how it works, suspiciously kind of like hypey. And as I'm thinking this and kind of wondering, because I'm seeing people talk about eScore in these Facebook groups, I'm also seeing people start to raise suspicions about eScore in these Facebook groups. And I'm starting to realize I'm not the only one that's getting suspicious of not just, repricers, but eScore. And ScoutIQ. And so some of the posts, you can just go to a Facebook group and just search eScore and you'll get an eyeful. You'll get people that are posting screenshots like, hey, this makes no sense. This book supposedly has an eScore of blank, but the sales rank is this, and those aren't within the same solar system. They don't make any sense. They don't seem to match up. And you'll see I started to see a bunch of these, and I'm like, there's a lot of people that are also having the same suspicions I am. Which brought me to actually attempting, for the sake of all Amazon sellers out there, to pull back the curtain on eScore and settle this once and for all. Is this actually real, or is it empty hype? So here's what ScoutIQ's official explanation of eScore is. Okay, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but the basic idea is this, and you can see the bolded part here on the screen. It says, eScore measures the number of days out of the past 6 months that a book has sold at least one copy. Okay, so if a book has an eScore of 50, it's sold 50 copies, or at least sold, if it's either sold 50 copies or at least sold at least one copy for 50 days. Okay, pretty straightforward. If this is actually what it did, that would be awesome. And I'm not suggesting otherwise. If we actually had an accurate measure of sales over a fixed period of time, for Amazon sellers, we should all be clamoring for this. That would be awesome. Okay, so this is what ScoutIQ claims. So based on this little elevator pitch, it still raises some questions, right? Sounds cool, but it raises some questions. Some of the questions might include, and these are the questions I had, was, does ScoutIQ claim that eScore is an exact expression of sales, or is it just an estimate? My second question was, is eScore merely ScoutIQ's interpretation of sales rank, or do they somehow have some other source of data? Okay. So in other words, if they're using Amazon sales rank as the basis for their calculation, that should be pretty easy for them to answer, right? And then we at least know what they're starting with. Number 3. If that's not the case, if eScore is not relying on Amazon sales rank, where does it get its sales data from? I would be very suspicious there is another source of sales data. Where are you getting your sales data from? Amazon doesn't share that data. Do you have people on the inside? Like this raises some serious questions, right? Because Amazon doesn't make this information public. Okay, so these are the 3 questions I had about eScore. Now, every single thing that ScoutIQ has to say about eScore is summed up in a single article called eScore Defined. If you email ScoutIQ and you have a question about eScore, this is the link they send you. If you Google eScore ScoutIQ, it's the first result that pops up. Okay, so this is their premier article that captures everything they have to say about eScore. And so in reading this article and going through it line by line very carefully, we learned some very important things about what ScoutIQ is claiming that eScore is. Okay, so let's break down every claim made by ScoutIQ about eScore that we learned in this article. And this will help us understand exactly what's to come. Okay, so eScore tells you how many times a book is sold in the last 180 days. We already know this, right? This is the main selling proposition of eScore. We will tell you how many times a book is sold in the last 6 months. This one we already covered. Okay, number 2, this is big because we would not have learned this unless we dug deep in this article, that eScore is not an estimate. It is a nearly exact figure. Now, I put this in quotes here on the screen. This is not actually an exact quote from ScoutIQ, to be fair, but when you dig in, what they say is if it has an eScore of 3, that means it's sold 3 times in the last 6 months. They don't say it's sold roughly 3 times in the last 6 months. They don't say this is a broad estimation. They don't say it's an interpretation of the data that we have. They say If we give it an eScore of 3, it has sold 3 times in the last 6 months. Unequivocal, clear and direct claim that eScore is an exact figure. Number 3, if a book is selling more than 1 copy a day, it gets the same eScore. In other words, if it's selling 1 copy a day or 10,000 copies a day or 50,000 copies a day, all of those will have the exact same eScore of 151 plus. Now, we got to stay with this for a second because it's really, really important to understand. This is a massive, massive blind spot. And the only thing by the end of this video, the only thing someone might say to defend eScore is, well, it's at least a good substitute for Amazon sales rank. No, it is not, particularly for this reason, because any book, whether it's selling 1 copy a day or 50,000 copies a day, gets the exact same eScore. Sounds completely insane, but ScoutIQ admits as much, right? It's right there in the documentation. So again, what they're saying essentially is, once a book is selling a certain number of copies, it just becomes impossible for us to estimate, so we just give it the same eScore. Again, as Amazon sellers, we need to know when we're making a purchasing decision, how often is it selling? And to just simply know it's selling at least 1 copy a day is not enough data. I can't have my scanning app holding back info for me, right? We need it all on the table. Okay, last one, eScore forms the backbone of what they call their smart triggers. Now, this is also important to understand. All apps that I'm aware of have some version of ScoutIQ's smart triggers. So smart trigger, and they're usually called triggers, they have different names, but they all work basically the same way. And you're basically just saying, hey, you're telling your app, hey, when these criteria apply, tell me to buy this item. Or when it's outside of these criteria, tell me not to buy the item. And that allows you to scan an item and you'll just get like a color or in some way the app will notify you, hey, don't buy this or buy this based on the criteria that you tell it, right? So you might just say a simple version of this would just be like, hey, anytime there's a book that has a sales rank of better than 1 million, that will make me at least $15, tell me to buy. If it's outside those parameters, tell me to reject. So again, all apps have some version of this. And then again, consistent with the whole thing where you give everything like a cheesy name, they call it smart triggers in ScoutIQ, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of Amazon sellers are basing their buying decisions on these triggers. So if ScoutIQ says buy, people will blindly buy. And if ScoutIQ says reject, people will reject. So there's an untold amount of money on the line here when it comes to, is ScoutIQ smart triggers, is it actually doing what it should be doing? Is it actually making the decisions that you tell it to make? Is it actually accurate? And right here, we get a naked confession that eScore is the quote backbone of their smart triggers. So if eScore isn't accurate, the merits of these buying decisions are completely destroyed and they cannot be trusted, period, by their own admission right here. So if we get to a place in this video, which I believe we're about to, where you decide actually eScore is not accurate and it's like barely even tethered to reality, then you therefore cannot trust the triggers. You cannot trust ScoutIQ telling you to purchase or reject an item. So the world already has average Amazon sales rank. This is a figure that's in abundance many places. Scoutly shows average sales rank. Why do we need eScore? What is ScoutIQ telling us? Why are they telling us we need this thing called eScore when we already have average sales rank? Okay, so ScoutIQ's claim is that Amazon sales rank is misleading. This is 100% true. This is Amazon Selling 101. There is absolutely nothing groundbreaking about this observation and nobody disputes it. Yes, current Amazon sales rank, as distinct from average sales rank, is 100% misleading. When I say 100% misleading, I don't mean it's misleading 100% of the time. I just mean it is not a direct expression of how often something is selling. It is simply a snapshot in time. Now, what's not misleading in any way is average Amazon sales rank. And so to back up, the reason that ScoutIQ claims that Amazon sales rank is misleading, which they're completely accurate about, by the way, is as follows. If you got a book, let's say it's ranked 10 million, hasn't sold a copy in 5 years, it will sell 1 copy, the only copy it's sold in 5 years, and the sales rank might jump to something like 150,000. So if you caught that book right after it sold a copy, you would think it's a really high demand book. You go, it's ranked 150,000, it must be selling, 1 copy a day. When in fact, it had just sold the 1 copy it sold in the last 5 years. But you can't tell that from the sales rank because it took this giant leap up, which again, it's that snapshot in time, which can be deceptive. So when you average sales rank out over a long period of time, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, that's when you get a much more accurate picture of demand because you eliminate all the outlier sales ranks and you just get that average, right? So if you can understand average Amazon sales rank and roughly what that translates to in terms of sales, that's all you need because you'll never get data that's more accurate than the data that comes from Amazon directly. Average Amazon sales rank charts are abundant. These have been published for like 15 years. I've got one on FBAmastery.com, okay? There's nothing mystical about this. There's no like hieroglyphics involved. There's no like decoder ring you need. It's pretty simple. So I got a chart right here. I pulled this off FBAmastery.com. And again, this is not something I invented. These are abundant. These are all out there, okay? So anyone with fingers, okay, who can Google, can come up with an average Amazon sales rank chart, spend 30 seconds studying it, and have a much better understanding of how often something is selling than someone who's relying on eScore. And average sales rank actually gives us a better picture because, again, eScore translates everything from 1 to 100,000 to a single eScore. Whereas average Amazon sales rank, if the average rank is 50, the average rank is 50. And eScore would never capture that. It would just put everything into that 151 plus number. Massive blind spot. So average Amazon sales rank is 100%, 1,000, bazillion, trillion, bajillion, cajillion times better than eScore. But eScore doesn't want you to know this. And so that's why they invented this gimmicky thing called eScore, so they can obscure the fact they don't actually show you average Amazon sales rank, which is truly the best measure of something's demand. And the other reason they don't tell you this is that Scoutly, their main competitor, as you see here, does show average Amazon sales rank. So if people started to understand, if the cracks started to form in the facade of eScore and people started to understand, oh wow, actually it's average Amazon sales rank is actually better than eScore, that's essentially the entire selling proposition of ScoutIQ would crumble instantly. Hopefully you understand, this is a big drum roll up to the main event here. We'll actually show you screenshots proving that eScore is inaccurate. So I'm not asking you to take my word for it. We're going to get to that in a second. Now, this entire video, everything I'm saying about eScore could have been avoided by ScoutIQ if they were just honest. If they just said, hey, eScore is a simpler expression of average Amazon sales rank that has some limitations that average Amazon sales rank does not have. If that's all they said, you know what? We're just taking a really long 6-figure number, usually or 7-figure number, and just reducing it down into a few digits so to make it easier to read. If they just said that and admitted what its blind spots are, we would not need to have this conversation. That would be a much more honest take about what eScore is. Now I'm going to argue that it's actually not. It doesn't actually do that. That would actually still be an exaggeration, but at least it wouldn't be so much of an exaggeration that we would need to make this video and me to write these articles and be talking about this. But that's not what ScoutIQ does. ScoutIQ is not being honest about the limitations of eScore, as we'll get to. Okay, so this is where it's about to get fun. We're about to get to the screenshot part where we actually start exposing people in their own words. Okay, so I contacted ScoutIQ support. I still had some questions. I read everything there was to read about eScore, and I still had some questions. Here are my questions. Number 1, is eScore accurate? Number 2, how accurate is eScore? Number 3, can you name any way that eScore is better than average Amazon sales rank? These are questions every ScoutIQ user should have. So I wanted to put these questions directly to ScoutIQ. This is how it went. Here's the conversation. My first email to ScoutIQ. I'm looking for more clarification on how eScore is calculated. I have 2 questions. Number 1, specifically, how precise is the calculation? If an item has an eScore of 30, what is the range of possible error? Could the sales be as high as 60 and as low as 5, for example? How much trust should I put in the eScore figure? Number 2, can you tell me specifically how eScore is better than average Amazon sales rank? I understand why it's better than current rank, but how is it better than average Amazon sales rank as provided by other apps? And that was obviously a nod or a wink or a reference to Scoutly, okay? And I said, thanks. Sent the email. Got a response back very, very quickly, about 5 hours later. Monica Flores from ScoutIQ support had this to say. She said, hi there. This article pretty adeptly answers both of your questions in depth. And then she sent me a link to, can you guess, the eScore defined article that I already read 100,000 times. Okay, so that didn't help me at all. She went on to say, but the short answer is you should trust eScore significantly, far more than sales rank, and the why is explained in the article as well. Okay, so that article in no way answered my questions. Okay, I wouldn't be asking the questions. I already read it. She didn't know that. But again, I was asking very specific questions. How is it better than average Amazon sales rank? The eScore defined article does not in any way reference average Amazon sales rank. And then I said, how accurate is it? How much trust should I put in it? And I want to hear clearly from them that yes, this is a specific accurate number down to the number, not an estimate, okay? She did not answer either of those. It's totally expected when you email support for basically anything that you're not going to get a direct answer to your question the first time, right? It's unfortunate. Usually you get a boilerplate response. That's what I got in this instance. So I had to email back, and we're starting at square one, right? That email did not answer my question at all. Starting over again, I reiterated just a little more succinctly. I said, thanks. I did read that article before reaching out. I was hoping it was possible to answer the questions. Number one, what is the margin of error with the eScore estimate? Number two, how eScore is superior to average Amazon sales rank. Thanks, Peter. Could not get more clear than that, right? Her response, sales rank charts are misleading, and this article explains why. And then she sent me a link to an article that, again, in no way answered my question. I don't even mean even came close. It just literally was not within a light year of answering my question. It was some article about sales rank charts. I don't even know. Didn't answer my question, okay? She went on to say the margin of error, this is very, very important. I want these words to echo in your head when we get to the next part where I show you screenshots of eScore and compare it to sales figures, prove that it's wrong. I want you to remember this part. Monica says from ScoutIQ, the margin of error for eScore is very minimal, next to none. Next to none. We pull and calculate it directly based on Amazon data. It is not an estimate. It is a complex calculation based on data. They really buried themselves here, you guys. Again, all they had to say to avoid all of this video, the article, all they had to say was, actually, it's just a rough estimate. And it's really not even good at that, as we'll see here in a second. That's all they had to say. And I probably wouldn't have made this video. But they had to go and lie. Okay, so my response. Thanks for clarifying. Last question. Is eScore calculated based on one, calculating sales based on an interpretation of average Amazon sales rank, or two, calculating sales based on some other data like Keepa charts, etc.? Since Amazon does not share sales data with third-party software, it is important to understand what data eScore relies on to make its calculation. Let me know if you need clarification. Thanks for answering. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm saying, look, if your data comes from Amazon directly, if it is merely an interpretation of average Amazon sales rank, I need to know this because then I'm just going to go to the source. I'm not going to waste my time with eScore. I'm going to go to the source. If you're taking average Amazon sales rank and you're interpreting it a certain way and spitting it out as eScore, just let me know because then I can just go to the source. I can go to average Amazon sales rank. If you're suggesting it is not an interpretation of average Amazon sales rank and is based on, you're sourcing the sales data somewhere else, now things get really interesting. Because essentially you're saying you've got some secret source of information. You got a spy, like buried inside of Amazon or something. Either way, I need to know because you're telling me as a potential customer, you're telling me, trust us with business critical decisions. Trust us. I have every right to know where this data is coming from so I can know if I can trust it or not, right? Okay, you guys, this is where, this is where they said the worst possible thing they could have said. This is where they made a grievous error. This is where they essentially turned me into an enemy. Okay, with this answer they gave here, I'm about to show you here. This is what sent me on the warpath. I was not committed to writing this article or making this video until they said what they said in their response. Monica Flores, ScoutIQ, her response to my pointed questions is as follows. Hi, Peter. eScore is a proprietary algorithm that we've already provided as much information as we are able. Here's the translation for that. Sit down, shut up, give us your money, and don't ask any questions. This is where they sent me on the warpath, okay? This is exactly what I've been talking about. It's inventing features that offer no real value and then stonewalling users when people reach out and inquire about them. I saw this from our pricing software tools, and here we are with ScoutIQ saying, you know what? This thing that is really our only selling point, the only reason anyone should use ScoutIQ, according to them, is eScore. But guess what? You're not allowed to know what it is or how it works or anything. So you just need to sit down. You need to know your place. You need to sit down. You need to shut your mouth. You need to give us your money, and you need to stop asking questions. Guess what? Hard pass. Hard pass on that. Now, I'm speaking here to all software people that may be watching this, people who make software tools. I'm saying this as someone who comes from the Amazon selling community. I've been as part of this community for over 15 years. That is never going to work for us, okay? So if you try to charge us for something and then you refuse to give us any information about this thing you're charging us for, we're going to run you out of the neighborhood, okay? Okay, figuratively speaking, in the form of videos like this. Like, you're going to get called out. Like, it's not going to work, okay? So hard pass on this. Monica, no thank you. You created an enemy here. So this is where I did something. Forgive the typo. This is where I did something I thought I would never do. Can you guess what it is? Okay. I downloaded ScoutIQ. And at this point, after that email from Monica, this was not, I did not download ScoutIQ in the spirit of, let me just see, what this eScore thing's about. I downloaded this in the spirit of, what are they hiding? Because now I know they're hiding something. They must have gotten, ScoutIQ must have gotten 50,000 emails about how eScore works. Okay, if you're managing a tool like that, you're gonna have a boilerplate answer. That means they've told 50,000 people to take a hike. Okay, that means that's deliberate obfuscation. That is a deliberate cover up. That's not just like some rogue employee. Okay, because again, you've got boilerplate answers to any questions about core features, especially something as important as eScore. Okay, so I knew they were hiding something. So I put ScoutIQ and eScore to the test. This is where it gets fun, you guys. We're getting into the screenshots. We're getting into some things that no one can hide from this point forward, okay? 10 books, 10 screenshots. How will ScoutIQ do when we hold up eScore and compare it to actual sales? What do you want to guess? They don't exactly pass the test. And before we get into it, I got to say, in full disclosure mode, I use their database feature for this. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. I scanned all of these 10 books on either March 26th or March 30th, I believe. What else do I need to disclose here? Every single time when we're looking at the sales charts here, every single time you see a sharp downward, the line drop down dramatically, not a little bit, but a lot, that represents a sale. I don't think anyone would argue with that. If it drops from 1.7 to 1.6 million or something, that's not a sale. I don't think anyone claims it is. Sales rank figures can be really wobbly. So sales rank can kind of go up and down a little bit as the line goes on. You'll see what I mean here in a second. But we're only looking for those dramatic drops that represent a sale. And I think that is it. So let's get into it. Book number 1. Scan the book. eScore of 11, which according to ScoutIQ means 11 sales. Not 10, not 12. Remember, almost no margin for error. It is not an estimate in their own words. Okay, so eScore of 11, it sold 11 copies in the last 6 months. What do you think we uncovered when we just clicked over to look at the actual sales? Drum roll, you guys. This is the chart. This chart unambiguously shows 5 sales. Now, the reason it says 5 or 6 here, and I got to make this bulletproof, so I got to over-explain some stuff because I know people are going to come back, and there's probably 5 diehard ScoutIQ fans out there. They're going to try to go, hold on a second, and I got to make it bulletproof to shut those people up. So here's how I'm going to do it. I got to be clear. You see where it says September 22 on the chart right there? You might have to squint to see it. Where it says September 22, there is a vertical light gray line that extends, again, vertically right from the middle between September and 2022. That is September 1st. Anything to the left of that is August. Anything to the right of that is in September. Again, I'm doing these scans at the very, very end of March. ScoutIQ eScore represents 6 months. That would take us to the very, very end of September. So anything to the left of the very, very end of September would not be in the scope of eScore, okay? So now because we can't see exactly where September ends, we can only sort of estimate. But you see that first drop there in the chart? You see where it goes way, way down? That almost definitely happens in mid-September or possibly earlier, possibly a couple days later, but not at the end of September. Okay, we can almost conclusively say that. So this chart almost conclusively shows 5 sales in 6 months. But if we wanted to give ScoutIQ tons and tons of slack here, it might maybe show 6. Either way, if it shows 5, eScore is off by over 100%. Or if it shows 6, it's off by like 85%. This is, you guys, this is not even within the realm of a rough estimate. It does not even serve the function of a rough estimate when you're off this much. It is almost completely untethered to reality. That is how bad eScore is, and this is just book 1, okay? I'm gonna go a little faster through the rest of these. I had to explain some things with the first one, so let's go a little bit faster here. Book number 2, eScore of 6. What does the chart show? 4. That's off by 40%. Again, that's not an exact figure like ScoutIQ claims. That's not even a rough estimate. That just sucks. Okay, sorry. It just sucks. It's, again, it almost completely disconnected from reality. Okay, book number 3, an eScore of 0. Get this, you guys. Click over to see the chart. You guys, this is so embarrassing for ScoutIQ. Like, I don't feel bad for them, but I almost do. This is so massively embarrassing. eScore of 0. According to ScoutIQ, this book has not sold 1 copy in 6 months. You click over this chart, 4 copies. Do you know the difference between a book selling 0 copies and a book selling 4 copies? It's incalculable. It's literally infinite. Okay? These are 2 completely different books. These are 2 completely different buying decisions. This is an absolute disaster. eScore of 0, sales chart of 4. Totally disconnected from reality. Not even a rough estimate. It is just essentially a made-up number at this point. Book number 4, eScore of 2. Drum roll. What does a sales rank chart show? 0. Now, again, that sale you see there on the far left, that happened in August. That is to the left of the gray line. 0 sales in 6 months. 0 sales in 7 months. eScore of 2. Why would they do this? It's so easy to confirm. It's just like hiding in plain sight. This has been there all along. Anyone could have done this. It's insane, you guys. Okay, book number 5, eScore of 0. Sales chart 1. Again, 2 completely different books, 2 completely different buying decisions. Totally ridiculous. Book number 6, eScore of 12. Sales chart shows 5. 5. Now, there's a couple of these, you guys. I got to say, for those like 5 diehard ScoutIQ fans, they're going to try to like say there's some flaw in this or something, even though it's like pretty clear. Occasionally in some of these charts, there's like, it'll go down all the way and there'll be like one day and it'll go down a little bit more. And I tried to catch all those. I'm going to go ahead and like count those as sales, even though they're probably not. Again, I just want this to be bulletproof. I don't want anyone to say that what I'm reporting here is not exactly what's happening in the chart. But you can see a little bit of that here. But I think I counted that. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that first one there, like pretty clearly happens in like early mid-September. So that's not in the 6-month range. So like maybe if you're going to give eScore like the maximum amount of slack, you might say this one shows 6. But again, 12. I mean, just completely disconnected from reality. Book number 7, eScore 4. What does the sales chart show? 2. Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Off by literally 100%. Okay. Again, all they can say at this point is like, oh, actually we messed up. It's actually just an estimate. It's not like an exact. You can't even say it's an estimate. You can't. You're off by 100%. You're just disconnected from the truth. Okay, book number 8, eScore of 2, exact same as the last one. Sales chart shows 4 sales. Completely ridiculous. Book number 9, eScore of 11. Sales chart shows 8, possibly 7. Again, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt here. It's got one of those weird little slight drops. Who knows, right? Book number 10, eScore of 30, no Amazon sales rank. If the book has no Amazon sales rank, that means it's never sold a single copy. Now let's give eScore the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe they had a hiccup and like the sales rank didn't load this particular time or something. I don't know, right? But I want to end with this one because it's sort of like a catch-all for all the weird data stuff I saw in just literally the 2 days I was using ScoutIQ. I saw tons of books that had a sales rank but no eScore. I saw tons of books that had an eScore but no sales rank like you see here. I saw books that had decent demand and value that came up as like not in our database. Tons of that. I saw books that have not been updated in ScoutIQ's database in over 3 months. that how stale the database is of ScoutIQ is just insane. So I was just seeing tons and tons of stuff. So this is kind of a catch-all for like all the weird, it just represents all the weird data errors that I was seeing when I was using ScoutIQ. And I could have included dozens of more examples of just the weird data that I saw. But an app that has a stale database and has huge gaps in its database simply cannot be trusted. I won't trust it as something I depend on for my Amazon selling business, okay? Okay, so these are just 10 examples, right? I gave you the raw data, I gave you the screenshots, total transparency here. eScore, again, is not even tethered to reality. So I'm sitting back here and I'm like trying to figure out if I'm a diehard ScoutIQ fan. I don't even know that those exist, but like if I'm a diehard defender of ScoutIQ, like what would I even be saying right now? Like what would my defense be? I honestly don't know. I don't think there's anything left to defend here. Like I think ScoutIQ has clearly been caught exaggerating eScore. Like I literally don't know what you would say at this point. I think since eScore is the main selling point for ScoutIQ, I do think a lot of people are just going to switch to Scoutly immediately upon learning this. Scoutly does display average Amazon sales rank. Scoutly actually has its own version of eScore. They have the dignity to not give it a cheesy name. They just call it like days with a sales or something like that. And Scoutly's cheaper, significantly cheaper. It's like 30% cheaper. So there's really, I don't see what the argument would be to stay with ScoutIQ at this point. So just to put a bow on this, reminder, what ScoutIQ claims is that eScore is a nearly exact calculation of sales over a 6-month period. What we learned here is that eScore is basically just almost a completely made up number. I don't want to say made up in the sense it's like literally made up, but it is, as I said many times, disconnected from reality enough as to be functionally useless. You might be able to say it's a rough estimation, but it's really not even that good at that. And this is the big point. There is no measure by which eScore is better than average Amazon sales rank. None. There's nothing you could say at this point. So if you're going to be left defending eScore, which I don't think anyone is, but if you are, all you can say at this point is that eScore is a good estimate. But it's not a good estimate, and the best estimate already exists in the form of average Amazon sales rank. So in other words, eScore is an attempt by ScoutIQ to sell a product by taking something that is not innovative, that doesn't even do what it says it does, giving it a cheesy name, and trying to sell it to people, just as I said at the beginning of this video. Okay, so here's your to-do list. Are you ready? This is a fun one. Okay, just take 30 seconds and learn how to interpret average Amazon sales rank. I got a link on FBA Mastery. Very, very easy. I'll put a chart in the article version of this video, which you can link to below. Okay, just take 30 seconds, learn that, and then just switch to Scoutly. Very, very simple. You save money, you get better data. It's a win-win. Okay, so I'll end on this note. You now have a 3-part mission. Are you ready? Number 1, subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can build a whole business off of what I give away for free. Number 2, you can build a whole business off of what I give away for free over at FBAmastery.com. So click the link below this video. I have free reports, free web classes. It's kind of bonkers what I give away. Number 3, take what you've learned in this video and go make money with it. This only matters if you put it into action. Okay, so if you learned anything in this video, put it in the action. Go learn average Amazon sales rank. Switch to Scoutly. However you want to apply this, apply it. Otherwise, the time we spent together has been wasted. Thank you guys so much. Peter Valley signing off, and I'll catch you in the next video.